did you see one of the dog podcasts put your football IQ in question?
Countdown to kickoff, baby.
That's right, dog fans. Countdown to kickoff with Troop and Smooch from the Dog Show. And I guess a couple of days away before the Bulldogs head over to the Plains in Auburn to take on those Tigers. Georgia, of course, 4-1. Tigers 3-2. Smooch, I think you just heard that. You probably played it where Brooks let us into our little countdown to kickoff tonight.
Yeah.
We did put some. We like to watch people break down film, and we had a couple of guys. Brooks and Coach Hayes both had differing opinions, and that's okay. We didn't say either one of them were right or wrong.
Yeah.
But it did get some attention, so enjoy, folks. You can find that little breakdown on our Twitter or our TikTok page as well.
It's nice to be referenced and at least mentioned by people who are much more famous than we. So thanks, guys.
But, yeah, we just thought we'd come back on after the podcast earlier this week to talk about Auburn and Georgia. It's going to be one of those atmospheres and environments. I've been to Auburn a couple of times.
Yeah.
And I was there way back 20-plus years ago when David Green hit Michael Johnson in the corner of the end zone, sent Georgia to their first the SEC championship. And so that was a iconic game.
Yeah. The game for me is always one where you don't sleep the night before. I mean, I've just never gone into – I can't think of a time I went into this game comfortable. They always managed to play. They always managed to bring it. And Troop Brinson, I'm telling you, the timing of the Cam Newton having his number retired, it's perfect. They're having him there at halftime doing a big ceremony. That place is going to be so lit, and it's going to be a really tough environment. And you know darn well they put that ceremony on this night for a reason.
And this was a popular game for pundits and even for people like us that predicted that this could be that Georgia loss. If you're going to predict a Georgia loss, this game on the road might be the one. But it was for a different reason. It felt like when we were talking about it preseason, it was because maybe that's a game we would overlook. So many big marquee games at home, and then you got Ole Miss at home next week, and maybe maybe Georgia would overlook Auburn. I don't feel that way at all. I think that this game has our attention, everybody's attention. Everybody is really hyped up for this ball game Saturday night.
Yeah, and when you think about styles make fights, as they say in the MMA and in the boxing world, Auburn's strength is one of Georgia's Auburn's strength is on the defensive line and their pass rush, and that just happens to be right where Georgia is struggling, just keeping bodies healthy right now. So those two things, who knows? But it definitely has people on pins and needles right now, kind of waiting to see how these two teams are going to match up. And Georgia, when you play at a school like Auburn, when you play it there on their home field, you can't just be one score better than them. You're going to lose that game. You've got to be significantly better than the other team to pull out a win in that environment because of all of the distractions and all of the adverse effect that the crowd can offer.
Yeah, and we're going to be really paying attention pregame who is actually playing, because we had thought that Monroe Freeling, who we just couldn't afford to lose, was going to be out for some time, and he may even play. I don't know how much. He may play sparingly. It depends on how he feels. But the great news is that he's not on the shelf for several weeks. So Bo Hewley's going to play a lot over there, it looks like. So we'll talk about that. I think from a fan's perspective, there's a couple of things that has everybody's attention right now. You as fans, we kind of, I think I mentioned it last week, that we kind of just blow past the things that are going well. We just accept it. That's what we're doing well. But they always want to focus on, of course, what's the negative part. We're, especially Georgia fans, it feels like we're always going to get in panic mode. And a couple of things that I've heard is this week, just in conversation, was Noah Thomas this, Noah Thomas that.
Yeah, it did pop
There was
up
even
a
guy on Twitter who was saying, this is the place where, you don't come to Georgia as a transfer wide receiver. Why would you? Because you're not going to get developed.
Glad you shut him up, too. What an idiot.
I was like, what about Zachariah Branch and Colby Young and London Humphreys? You just ignored those guys just to say something negative. He was a Georgia fan. Just to say something negative. A Georgia fan was going that route. I was like, you're not really a football fan if that's the way you're just trying to stir people up.
No, and there's a reason. He's getting snaps, and there's a reason. And some of it's just dumb luck, but some of it is this is a pro scheme. You got to know how to run routes, and you have got to be a good blocker. But it's not like there's a concerted effort to deny him the ball. I'm sure every coach understands what a weapon he is. The idea that not getting Noah Thomas in the game somehow rests on the coaches. Well, he's getting the snaps. I'd love to see him blow up too. I think he can. I think he can blow up in this game.
Good. The other big question that everybody's been talking about is, what about Georgia's pass rush? They only have like 7 sacks on the season, and they don't appear to have the players up front to create that pass rush situations. And so the question I had, Smooch, is, can UGA win big? Having just a good pass rush without having a good or elite pass rush. That's a phrased better. Without having a good or elite pass rush, can they still win big? And so I think that's the real question. And I broke some stuff down looking at the pros and cons on each level of defense. And I'll just run through those real quick. It's just on my brain. And as we thought about Auburn in the second half of the season, or hopefully second 2/3 of it.
There you go.
Or the last 2/3, hopefully. Looking at the line of scrimmage, and that's where a lot of the angst is coming from. They just haven't won one-on-one battles. And that's really the knock on them. They haven't won one-on-one battles and haven't had much penetration into the offensive backfield. And it almost feels like a lot of times it's that mush rush, which you might see a lot of this weekend with a running quarterback, because you want to maintain those lanes.
Maintain your lanes.
But it's conveniently people just push right on by what they have done well and how good they've been at stuffing the run and stopping the run and setting the edge and making it really difficult on teams to control the game from that aspect. It's very unusual that you have a half like Alabama has, when you just come out there and convert every third down, every pass finds its target. That's unusual. That's not, that's never, that's very, very rare. And so I think what you've seen are those two things with the line of scrimmage.
I think with the line of scrimmage, I think stopping the run, it's an old adage, stopping the run is key. And I truly believe, look, I'd love to see more sacks. I like sacks. They're fun. I think hitting the quarterback makes the quarterback do dumb things. But the most overrated stat on defense is sack. You want pressures. You want hurries. You want disruption. You want havoc. But the sack itself is highly overrated. Now, Kirby's system is designed that way. You can look at certain plays. I shared a couple with you this week. There's some where our pass rushers are turned loose, go in, and it does appear in those situations they're doing well in their one-on-one battles. But there's also a time where the pass rushers engage and read and maintain, and sometimes that works. It's not fun to watch when it doesn't work. It's really frustrating to watch when it doesn't. I think the defense has played well. I think they've got a lot more to get better at, but I think they also know what it is. And the talent's there. We will have to see. When it comes to the pass rush, I go back and forth on it. You've heard me go back and forth on it. Sometimes I feel like were some of these prospects misses. Why haven't we found that just havoc maker yet? Well, maybe we haven't put a certain package in that we're going to run. I don't know. I
will say that Kirby did even allude to a lot of teams want to go tempo from second to third down to keep Georgia from putting some of those rabbits in there, so to speak.
Chris Cole's a great example of that.
And so they'll go tempo and they won't switch out, and you kind of have to keep those same guys on the field that were there for the early downs. But looking at those linebackers, Smooch, I think a con with the linebackers, if we have to identify something, would be sometimes they're confused in coverage. It feels like sometimes they can get a little bit caught up in traffic and maybe have some issues with their eye discipline, and especially with with players who do have some experience, like Raylan and C.J. Allen. It feels like they should be beyond that, but teams are doing a good job of putting them in conflict and trying to create that confusion. But this grouping of players are all elite athletes, and they really have some of the broadest skill sets on the team. And I think I'm going to get to that in a moment and how Georgia could use that. But there's no doubt that that's the deepest group with the freakish type athletes, Smooch. But also looking at the DBs, and that's another area that is big in terms of the pass rush. Sometimes coverage sacks are nice to have too. You want to make them hold the ball, and I think Jackson Arnold does hold the ball.
He
a
loves
lot.
to hold the ball.
20 sacks on the year.
Yeah,
he's got to be holding
ground,
it too much.
He's been on the ground at least 30 times this year.
But with the DBs, one of the negative aspects is they just have left too much cushion, too much space, and they have lacked physicality sometimes in the routes. Most of the times in the routes, early in the routes. There's not much.
Yeah, free release. Too many free releases.
Maybe that's just the youth. That's some of those guys. Daniel Harris has never been a physical DB. And now with the two redshirt freshmen coming in there and Ellis and DeMello, they're not always sure about things, so they play a little slower. And DeMello's shown to be a lot more physical than Ellis right now. Yeah. But that's a big aspect that they have not been good in the first 5 games of the season. But they do have an extremely high ceiling and coverage potential. Yeah. None of those guys are lacking in the attributes to really develop and to grow as the season continues.
None of them are held back by their talent. I think that's what you're saying there. None of them, there's no lack of talent anywhere. So that means it's strictly a matter of the gray matter, understanding the game plan, receiving coaching, and then incorporating that into your play on the field. A lot of teams don't have that luxury of not having lack of talent be a problem. Georgia doesn't have a lack of talent problem anywhere.
Right. Now, moving forward, Smooch, I do want to say something that is probably going to sound utterly ridiculous.
That's what we do.
That's what we do to the majority of the fans, because we hear how they talk and how they say. I just want to pose a question about our defense.
All right.
Now, people are saying that we have a medium to bad defense. I keep hearing that. We're just not good. So not that we don't have the potential to have elite athletes, but we just haven't been good so far this year. But Smooch, is like I think the metrics actually bear some of that out. If you look at where Georgia ranks, and they did play a couple of teams that put some yards on them, in Tennessee and Alabama, the metrics do say we haven't been up to standard early in this season. But Kirby Smart's really likes this group. You can tell in preseason and in camp, and then the first few games, even when things went wrong, he was like, "No, this group is locked in. They have the utmost confidence, and he really believes in the fire that they show on the field." And I think the ceiling that this group has, he really likes coaching this group, and he's made mention of it several times, which has kind of got me thinking, are we misreading this group a little bit? We know, Smooch, that the unit overall from all 3 levels are littered with 4- and 5-star players. So, like you said a moment ago, it's not that we don't have the talent, and they are all, for the most part, high character and culture dudes. So they're all willing to be coached and to learn. Nobody's getting angry or upset. But trying to get to this question, this is the thing that's been on my mind for really a couple of weeks. Is Georgia's defense really much better than the results that they had against the Tennessee shootout, I guess, and the first half against Alabama? So that's been on my mind. Was that just an exceptional quarterback play from both of those teams? Not that we played perfect by any means, right, and we had our issues, but is that something that the quarterbacks created an outlier in terms of what this season will look like? Once we get done with this season, we'll look back and say, that really wasn't what Georgia's defense was all about. So I'm curious about that, and I just feel, just listening to some of Kirby's sound bites, that he feels that way. Yeah. And he hasn't lost any confidence in these guys, and it's almost like some of the comments, there's been just a little smirk on his face as he's saying those things. I'm like, what does he know that I don't know? What does he know that we don't know? Is he just a proponent of his team and keeping his guys with the right mindsets and being positive, or expectation that these guys are going to come together as the experienced, because there are already a lot of young folks in there, and they're trying to find their way, Smooch.
Yeah, it is odd. You do mention that. I've noticed that with Kirby too. There's a certain rancor, even ornery type of disposition he gets when you start to question whether or not this defense could be great or not. It is as though, Kirby's always been brutally honest. This year we're struggling here, we're struggling there. We haven't seen that from Kirby. Kirby knows what he has, and he does seem to have this wait, you'll see type of attitude right now that we haven't seen since maybe 2020, 2021 with the defense. So who knows, man?
But what I do think we know, if we know anything, is that on the line of scrimmage, we aren't blessed with elite pass rushers. And so I do feel we've established that. But we can also say they're playing really well right now. It's just not as pass rushers. So another question, is that a death knell for a defense and for a team to not have elite pass rushers on the line of scrimmage? Or are there answers on this team for this deficiency that don't involve linemen?
Interesting.
And so I think we have identified they do certain things well, but this is not one of them. But maybe we have some answers. And if there is, I think we may start to dial it up with the right combination, Smooch, right mixture of players and schemes. Would the opinion of fans start to change if we started to see? I think they would. I don't think it matters where that comes from. If it comes from the line of scrimmage or it comes from maybe a different position group. I do think there is a position group that is loaded with freaks, and it's the linebacker core.
Yeah.
You got what, CJ, Raylan, Chris Cole, Justin Williams, Chris Jones. We saw him make some plays and be very tough to block late in that game against Kentucky. Ella Madozie really hasn't done anything yet, but he's brought here to do that kind of thing. We saw the Kenningbon, the freshman, just looks like he get after quarterback. And then you got the true freshman in Isaiah Gibson and Zayden Walker.
Right.
And Zayden was from the last class, but he was redshirted, correct?
Correct.
So just lots of freaks out there who I just feel like if you're going to create a pass rush, that's where it's going to come from.
Right, and that's when you start talking about the idea of scheming a pass rush. We just haven't done that yet. It doesn't mean that they're not going to do it. It means they haven't done it yet. Why? You'd have to ask someone with a higher pay grade than I have. But you'd be a fool not to put together some exotic blitz packages with the type of athletes that they have, and just say, listen, there's about to be a bunch of really big, fast guys coming toward the quarterback. Pick which ones you want to stop, and let's go. They still have that arrow in the quiver at this point in the season, and some people are a little irritated they haven't fired it yet, but Kirby loves not leaving a lot on film. He wants to get in, win, and not give you a lot of film. That's the way he does it. We're seeing it on the defensive side this year, I think, just as well as the offense.
What we really need as well to kind of go be complimentary is for that defensive backfield to start to find its footing and to play exceptional football.
Bump somebody off the line, for crying out loud.
Yeah, we'll take a coverage sack here and there, and if when you put pressure on folks, that's when you get turnover. So hopefully they can work together. I do think Georgia, like we said a moment ago, that they do have those guys, and six, Dalen Everett, one, that's Ellis Robinson, and then of course DeMello, and we actually like what we saw with Dominic Kelly. I don't know if he'll get a whole lot of burn right now. He could. Depends on what happens. I'm worried a little bit about that other safety position. I haven't seen what I need to see. KJ Bolden has had a kind of middling season right now. He's done some good things, but I think that other safety position has caused some concern to me, and I don't think we've had the perfect fit for that yet.
I think that a lot of the deal with the other safety position, I think it bleeds into KJ. I think KJ is being asked to do a lot of things well beyond his normal positional requirement or the normal ask for that position. I think he is looking at other people miss assignments and not be in the right place and having to make up for it. When you do that, it does bleed your stats down a little bit. I think he's being asked to do a lot more. I don't want to use the term babysitting, back there in the secondary, but there is some of that. And so if that other safety position steps up, don't be surprised if you see KJ suddenly step up, quote unquote, at the same time. I think that's possible.
Yeah, but we need that in we need that in tandem, that defensive backfield and the linebackers. That's where the pressure is going to have to come from. I feel very confident in that. And they may have some different packages they're going to have to get out there that may sacrifice in some areas. And you have to really count on that line of scrimmage to stop the run. And so you may be in that situation. But I think Georgia, if they want to create it, if it's important to them and they think that is where, that's the crux of our issues, is creating pressure, they have those guys to do it. But I don't even think that this game is going to be the time to throw out the kitchen sink out. I just don't. Maybe next week against Ole Miss at home, but Auburn just creates different problems. And I know we want to get him and get him on the ground and have create lost yardage plays. But in terms of just a passer, that's not what he does well. Let's move on and talk a little bit about Auburn, because that's what we're really looking at. Yeah. In our countdown to kickoff. Smooch, Auburn has only lost a couple games, and they were both one-score games and both on the road.
Yeah, so they came into the season with a hard-fought battle they pulled out late against Baylor, opening day. I think it was 38-24. They then went and took care of business against Auburn, 42-3. South Alabama was a little closer than you're used to seeing a Hugh Freeze team playing somebody like South Alabama. It was 31-15. And then all attention was on Oklahoma, where I'm just going to tell you, I can say this as unbiased and an Auburn despiser. Auburn got absolutely robbed in that game. That was some of the worst officiating I have ever seen. And they lost by one score to Oklahoma.
And that was still in a game where they gave up like 10 sacks, wasn't it? They sacked him like 10 times.
Yeah. And so that was a tough one. I get it. And then the Texas A&M game, Auburn really just did not show up offensively to that game. I believe they only scored 10 points. They lost by 6, I believe, 16-10 to A&M. And so that's been their season so far. So if you just take the two games that they lost, which are the only 2 games that were in question for them, right? So 2 games in a row, both by 1 score. The only ranked teams they've played, they've lost to. You can say it like that if you want to frame it up. But Jackson Arnold threw for 220 yards against Oklahoma. He threw for 125 against A&M, Texas A&M.
That's very apropos.
That's my wife's favorite university, the ATM. And anyway, yeah, they really didn't show up offensively to that game. But Jackson Arnold, he tucks the ball and runs a lot as a passer. He holds the ball a long time. He takes a lot of sacks. 20 I think,
so far.
Yeah, I think it's 30 hits. He can, and 20 sacks. He is dangerous running, but the sack total really pulls back his yards per carry, if you know how college stats work.
Yeah, their weakest unit on the team, according to everybody, is their offensive line, and so that bodes well for Georgia.
It's the worst. I believe they have the second worst in the SEC from the little grading system or whatever it is. Yeah. But
they just put too much on him. It feels like everything he carries the weight of everything. He's the leading ball carrier for this team, and they have a good wide receiver core with Cam Coleman and Singleton from Georgia Tech.
Yeah,
but it's hard to utilize that when your offensive line doesn't give you much time, and teams can try to shut down the biggest weapon, which would be Coleman.
They never thought Coleman would only have 17 catches at this point in the season. I guarantee that never crossed their mind.
And so their secondary rusher is, what's his name? Cobb.
Jeremiah Cobb, yeah.
Dude, he had 6 carries against A&M. He had 6 carries against Oklahoma.
Yes.
So they just put way too much on Jackson Arnold. And with the offensive line, I mean, I get it. Sometimes he just got to go. But it just hasn't worked out. He's taken a lot of punishment. And they got him like at 70. Is it 70 carries on the season? And a lot of those were, I think sacks do count as a carry. So 70 carries leads the way for this team. And,
Yeah, I mean, he had 36, is that right? in the 30s in those two games, in the A&M and in the
36,
36 carries in those two games compared to 12 for your running back that's averaging right at 7 yards a carry. And so I was telling you this in the pre-show, the buzz in the Auburn nation right now. I've got a buddy that's going to the game, and he's in grad school at Auburn right now, and he was telling me the buzz is, they've had their bye week and their time, and now they're going to really just peel back this high octane offense predicated on a dominant run game, and they're really going to step up there. They're going to put these new wrinkles in and things like that, which I think all of that's probably going to be efforted at least. I think we will see some new stuff, but they are. As much concern as we have over the game, they have a concern about their offense, which you never thought you'd say to any offense that has Cam Coleman on it and Singleton to even there to be concerned about it. But yeah, they are really they haven't gelled yet on offense.
Well, I would think that any Auburn fan who was holding hope that they were going to, other than having a bye week and putting some things together, maybe they think Georgia's defense is subpar too. Mm-hmm. Maybe like a lot of Georgia fans thinking that, and they're gonna reap the rewards on that. But I really think that as the season goes along, you see what kind of season Ty Simpson's having. You see what kind of seasons Aguilar's having, and those guys are doing it against everybody right now.
They really are. They really are. And Jackson Arnold hasn't done it against everybody. So that's actually a very good point, Troop. This is going to tell us, it says Georgia's defense ran into two of the best quarterbacks in football, or has their defense made these guys look like world beaters? The Jackson Arnold game should tell us, because Jackson Arnold has not looked like a world beater against anyone. So
yeah, I really think Georgia's defense is kind of licking their chops against him. They want to make him one-dimensional, and they're going to tee off on him. Despite some of the other results, Auburn just doesn't match up that well with their offensive line. And you got to give him time. You got to create space, and Georgia's going to I feel like Georgia could overwhelm him without even sending a lot of people. And even I read a quote. And I was kind of looking at what some of the thoughts were about Georgia's defense. I saw a Lane Kiffin quote after the Tennessee game, and he's even with that game and all the points and yards, he said some of the times that some of these games just play out that way, and he felt like what Georgia did at key points had championship DNA, and that just the plays they made, the turnovers they created when they had to have them, and just never buckled when a lot of teams would. He said that he appreciated that, and that was a championship DNA. And like I said, Kirby has the confidence that there's just something about reading his quotes or hearing him talking some of these pressures. I'm like, what does he know? Yeah. But you might not find out. I think Georgia could win a 20-10 game against Auburn, and you wouldn't find out a whole lot about some of these aspects that we're curious about. Now, you still find out about what this team's made of, because you're playing on the road in front of all those fans late at night, and you're going to be tested. I anticipate this being a second half game and a low scoring one.
Yeah, I mean, Auburn they are second in the SEC in yards allowed per carry, so they're stopping the run. Pass defense, is more like 13th, somewhere around in there. But no, these names, you've got the linebacker Xavier Atkins, you've got Kieron Crawford, you've got Robert Woodyard, those guys along the line and at edge, they've stepped up this year. They've had a pretty solid year. The problem is on the back end. If you pick up any of their pressure, the back end, the secondary's just not getting it done. And lots of missed assignments in the secondary, lots of guys with their hands on their hips, that type of thing. So, I think the defense poses challenges. How much fun is it going to be to take this Georgia rushing attack against the number 2 rush defense in the SEC? That sounds like a good
struggle.
time. Yeah.
Could be a struggle. And they're going to try to stop. Obviously, they're going to send everything to stop the run and probably play a lot of zone and see if Gunnar Stockton can find a way to beat them in that zone, which he hasn't been. It's been a work in progress for him. Yeah, he was a little bit better against Kentucky, but that's going to be the recipe for everybody. They see what Georgia's been able to do this year, and they've been running the ball effectively every game. And so Auburn is going to make a concerted effort to stop that. And they have some of the athletes to do it. They do have some youth at some of those positions, and some freshmen out there on defense, and Georgia may take advantage of that, just like teams try to take advantage of Georgia's youth. But even at the linebacker position, I think that I think that Auburn can be had.
I agree.
But it's going to come down to the line of scrimmage. It always comes down to the line of scrimmage. If Georgia has any room and if they're healthy at all, healthy enough to maintain for 4 quarters, and that'll be if they can't hold Georgia to under 150 yards rushing, then Georgia's probably going to have their way.
There you go.
And it may not be as close. I just don't. I think it's gonna be a slog for a while, and you may not break out. So we'll see. Unless they could throw some wrinkles out there where Georgia doesn't have to just hand it off and try to run between the tackles. They've shown you this year their run scheme's much different, and they're willing to be more creative to get players the ball. Yeah. And so you may see that, and you're obviously going to see some screens to Zachariah Branch.
Hey, listen, guys, I know we complain about the number of screens, but you saw him take that, 9-yard gain? That was one of the best 9-yard gains I've ever seen. He took that ball. He made 5 guys miss. We'll take that. It's when you see the screen, think of it as just a run play. That's all it is. If it gets 4 or 5 yards, it did its job. On to the next play. I don't quite get the frustration over the screens, but while we're talking wide receivers, I do want to say, in deference to the Auburn fans that are listening, and we know there's thousands of you.
Yeah.
Cam Coleman, for my money, is the best in the business. I know there's the Jeremiah Smith debate and the kid down at Bama, but Cam Coleman's ability to play the ball and catch the ball with a huge radius while he's covered it's insane. His body control, his ability to be completely draped by a defender and make a clean catch and make it look routine is something to behold. On top of that, he can fly. I am hugely impressed with him. I know that has to be frustrating for the Auburn fans because you've got a Maserati that's been in the garage most of the season so far, that they just haven't figured out a way to make him gel with the quarterback.
Yeah, and Georgia's going to have a plan for him. You can bet on that. They'll have, and even with those 2 freshmen out there, or 2 redshirt freshmen, and DeMello and Ellis, they'll try to get matchups like that. I'm sure they will.
I want to see Mello on him 1-on-1. I want to see it. He's the right size. He's the right size to go up against him. Let's see how good he is.
They'll try to have some safety help there, I'm quite sure. And I don't think Singleton, as an outside receiver excels as much as he doesn't. He's more about, to me, like a slot receiver, and you try to get him the ball in space, and he has that kind of skill set. But the way teams are defending Coleman, they've kind of forced him to do things he's not comfortable with, and it hasn't benefited him a whole lot. And plus, the offensive line doesn't give you much time to let these routes develop. And so that's my take. I'm so excited about it. It's another marquee game. I don't care if Auburn's ranked or not. It's going to be a marquee game, and we get to see the Dogs play once again. It's already game number 6. Can't believe it.
Man.
Slow down season, right?
Yeah, slow down. Absolutely. Preach it, brother.
But, yeah, that's it. Smooch, anything else you want to close with? We just wanted to come back and let you guys know that, we were locked in. We are locked in to Auburn. It's Auburn week, and it's a big game for us. And we anytime you can play under the lights at in a venue like Jordan-Hare, with the way the crazy as the fans are going to be, we're going to be excited too. We're going to probably plan. You're going to plan your whole day around it, like I am.
Absolutely, man. And I do want to say one thing before we leave to our fans. Listen, guys, when you're talking about playing Auburn, it doesn't matter what the records are. You just go in and get a win and get out. We can worry about whether we scored enough points or did enough entertaining and where there's enough show-stopping plays and breathtaking plays. You can worry about that later. The key when you play Auburn, go in, get your win, get out, get home. I think it's the Deep South's oldest rivalry, and let's get in, get a win, get out. That's the key.
That's the key.
That's the key.
All right, we'll look forward to Saturday. This has been a Dog Show countdown to kickoff.
Countdown to kickoff, baby.